When a poor security guard saves a girl, he discovers she's a hidden billionaire. The night felt heavy as Jake stood sentinel at the entrance of the Montero Tower. The glass building, sleek and reflective, loomed over the street like a silent guardian watching the world go by. The moon cast eerie shadows across the pavement. Each tick of the clock echoed loudly, marking time in a place where secrets breathed alive. Then, out of nowhere, a scream shattered the stillness, piercing through the night like a knife. Jake's heart raced. He bolted towards the sound, weary legs kicking into gear. He spotted her, an elegant girl, no older than 20, stumbling down the steps. Her gown, a cascade of midnight blue, shimmered like a starry sky but was smeared with dust and fear. "Help me!" she cried, voice trembling. The shadows whispered around her, as if the city itself wanted to swallow her whole. But there was more. As she turned, flickering streetlights painted her frightened face, revealing a pair of strikingly green eyes that seemed old beyond her years. Jake could feel his stomach twist. Why was she here, and where were the others? Her gaze darted around, full of terror and desperation. "They're coming," she whispered, hands shaking. Suddenly, deafening footsteps echoed from the alley, sending a chill down Jake's spine. Adrenaline flooded him. He wanted to run, but he couldn't leave her. A clash of power and vulnerability hung in the air, demanding resolve. Then, just as quickly as it began, the shadows retracted, and a sleek black car screeched to a halt. The back door swung open, revealing men in suits, faces obscured by darkness. Jake's instincts screamed at him to protect her. He stepped forward, fists clenched. "Get away from her!" His voice rang with an authority he didn't feel. The men paused, their eyes narrowing as they took in the sight of this scrappy security guard, barely more than a kid himself. "Let her go, punk," one of them growled, and for a moment, time froze. The girl seized the opportunity, grabbing Jake's arm. "Please, help me." Panic clawed at her voice, and Jake could feel the heat radiating off her skin, a mix of fear and something inexplicably profound, like he was holding an untapped wealth of secrets. Before the tension could snap, before anyone could reach for weapons hidden beneath crisp jackets, Jake knew he faced something bigger than himself. How could a girl like her be stuck in a situation like this? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Jake's heart pounded against his ribcage. He responded, "What do you want with her?" The men froze for just a heartbeat before one stepped forward, lips curling into a grim smile. "We need to take her." "It's not what you think," he drawled, but his condescending tone only set Jake's teeth on edge. "I'm not letting you hurt her," Jake shouted, and the girl's grip tightened. The fear in her eyes pricked his conscience, igniting something within him that he never knew existed. In that moment, he realized the stakes were higher than their lives. It felt like the weight of the world teetered on their shoulders. As fists flew and chaos broke loose, the truth began to unfurl. Was this girl really who she seemed? Who chased her, and why? The world was shifting like a piece of art hung askew. And just when Jake thought he had a handle on the situation, she looked at him and whispered, "I'm not just a girl. I'm worth billions." A gasp escaped his lips, and the world around them blurred into a chaotic storm. What had he stumbled into? The night was just beginning, and the questions loomed high, ready to crash down like a tidal wave. The world around Jake erupted into a cacophony of sound, shouts, grunts, the sickening thud of fists landing. Each second stretched into eternity as he grappled with the men who threatened to take the girl. She clung to him, her grip fierce even as the chaos whirlpooled around them. "Jake! We need to get out of here." Her panicked voice pierced through the noise. He could sense her urgency, that fierce determination burning in her green eyes. The suit-clad men lunged, and Jake instinctively ducked, narrowly avoiding a punch that would have sent him reeling. He felt the girl pull him back just as a ripple of heat blasted past his ear. "Move!" she shouted, dragging him toward the shadows of the alley. They scrambled out of view, breathing hard, heartbeats pounding like war drums. A low growl of frustration echoed behind them. The men wouldn't relent easily. Wherever she came from, whoever chased her, they were clearly determined to succeed. "Who are they?" Jake gasped, still sprinting. "Why do they want you?" His mind raced, a million questions flaring as adrenaline swept him forward. "I can't explain right now," she shot back, her voice sharp. "Just know they're not just looking for me. They want everything I represent. I'm part of something much bigger." Her eyes glimmered in the dim light, a depth of emotion hidden beneath her fear. They turned a corner, skidding to a halt as they faced a dead-end brick wall towering above them like a looming threat. Panic rose in Jake's throat. They needed a plan, and fast. "Do you have a phone?" the girl asked urgently. "If we can just call for help. I left it in my car," he said, fists clenching at the thought of being cut off from his one chance of salvation. Suddenly, the distant sound of sirens cut through the air, a beacon of hope. But before he could feel relieved, a harsh laugh echoed down the alleyway. The suited men had regrouped, closing in on them, eyes glinting with malice. "Thought you could escape that easily?" one of them sneered, advancing like a predator finally closing in on its prey. Jake stepped protectively in front of her, his resolve solidifying. "You're not taking her." The words felt like a roaring challenge. But the unknown behind those suits loomed larger than himself. "Last chance, kid," one of them said, drawing closer, an unsettling smirk on his face. "You don't know what you're messing with. She's not just your average girl." "What do you mean?" Jake's voice trembled with urgency. Without warning, the girl grabbed his hand, squeezing it tightly. "I'll explain everything, but we need to go. Now." They shared a fleeting moment of understanding, a silent promise woven through their fear. In that instant, Jake knew he had to trust her. The sirens grew closer, swirling hope against the shadows, as they took off again, running towards the light but unaware of the monstrous wave that pursued them. As they raced down the streets, the world became a blur, a whirlwind of colors, voices, and emotions colliding. Jake felt something shift within him, a flicker of defiance igniting in his chest. This girl wasn't just a hidden billionaire. She was a spark in the darkness, and he had no choice but to stand beside her. But just as they reached a corner, a figure stepped out of the shadows, blocking their escape. His heart dropped. This is it, he thought, every instinct screaming danger. "Get back!" Jake shouted, feeling the weight of the moment press heavily against his chest. The figures drew closer, a clash of fears and truths all entwined. Would they escape this night alive, or would secrets buried in the dark consume them both? And just then, the girl whispered, "Jake, I need you to trust me. There's something you need to know." As the world plunged deeper into chaos, Jake felt the glimmers of revelation begin to ripple through the suffocating air. What was she about to uncover? What truth loomed that could change everything? "Jake, listen," she said, her voice barely rising above the escalating tension in the air. Her green eyes sparkled with a fierce determination, but beneath her fiery exterior, Jake could sense the tremors of fear threatening to break through. A fleeting second passed between them, the kind that felt heavy yet electric. The figure that had stepped out of the shadows approached slowly, as if savoring their helplessness. Jake's instincts kicked in. "Who are you?" he demanded, his heart racing, body taut with adrenaline as he stepped in front of her. "I'm the one who collects what doesn't belong to you," the man replied, a cold smile curling at the corners of his mouth. He was taller, broader than Jake, his suit immaculate even in the oppressive alley. Jake could see the menace lurking behind that smile, and it made his skin crawl. "We have to run," the girl hissed, her grip tightening around Jake's wrist. As she turned to pull him away, the suited man lunged forward, his fist crashing toward Jake in a blur. Jake barely had a second to react, dodging to the side but not quick enough to miss the impact that radiated through his shoulder. Pain shot down his arm, but he didn't have time to dwell on it, adrenaline surging. "Go!" he shouted back to her. The girl didn't hesitate, she sprinted toward the street, dragging him along by sheer willpower. But the suited man wasn't finished yet. He recovered quickly, determination chiseled into his face. "You can't escape." Jake's vision narrowed. They burst onto the street where the distant echo of sirens grew louder, illuminating their escape route, but it was also drawing attention. He could hear the chaos behind them, the shouts of the other men closing in. "Where are we going?" he panted, trying to keep pace as they zigzagged through the crowd. "I know a place," she said breathlessly, a flicker of hope lighting her gaze. "Just follow me." They darted down another alley, the sounds of pursuing footsteps fading momentarily. Breathless, Jake leaned against a brick wall, chest heaving, as he struggled to tend to the fire burning in his shoulder. What is going on?" Jake gasped, trying to make sense of the moment. The girl turned, fear underlying her fierce expression. "They want me because I have information, secrets that could tear apart everything. You don't know how deep this goes. How dangerous the people are after me." Jake's head spun. "What secrets?" Before she could answer, the sound of shouting erupted from the direction they came, a chorus of heavy boots echoing off the walls. Panic surged through Jake. "We need to go." In desperation, the girl glanced around, spotting a narrow door to their right, half hidden behind a garbage dumpster. "In there!" she urged, pointing. Without thinking, they dove inside, slamming the door shut just as the first thuds hit it. They crouched low, breath so loud in the suffocating silence that it made Jake acutely aware of their vulnerability. "What if they find us?" Jake swallowed hard, panic filling his voice. "They will," she answered, her eyes darkened with urgency. "But it's not just about finding me, there is something I haven't told you, something that changes everything." Jake's heart raced faster. "What are you talking about?" Just then, a loud crash echoed through the door, rattling them both. Jake's mind raced. He locked eyes with her, the unspoken terror binding them together. And then, in a frantic whisper, she said, "Jake, I'm not just any girl, they're after something much bigger than you and me. I'm a key to a secret society that can destroy them, and I need you to help me unlock it." The stakes had never felt higher. Could he trust her? Could he trust himself? But before he could respond, the crashing intensified, the sinister chorus of their pursuers growing louder. They had to act fast. "Ready?" she asked, her voice a mix of fear and fierce resolve. Jake felt the weight of the decision settle in his gut. He nodded, heart pounding. "Let us do this." But as they prepared for whatever lay ahead, a dark shadow loomed over their escape, leaving Jake wondering just how deep this tangled web would go, and whether they would tear it apart or be consumed by it. Jake pressed his back against the cool, damp wall, the weight of their situation crushing his ribs. The alley was dimly lit, shadows playing tricks on his mind, but the reality was clear: they were in grave danger. The pounding on the door echoed like thunder, urgent and relentless. "Please tell me there's another way out of here," he whispered, trying to suppress the rising tide of panic. All he felt was the frantic drum of his heart matching the pounding at the door. The girl, her expression a mosaic of fear and determination, shook her head. "No. But we need to move now. They'll get in." Her words barely settled before the door jolted violently against the frame. Dust clouded the musty air, swirling as Jake felt his throat tighten. "Jake, focus." She grabbed his jacket, her fingers trembling yet resolute. "You need to believe me. This isn't just some game, there's a reason they want me, a reason why you need to help me." "What could possibly be so important?" he asked, anger and fear warring within him. "The key I mentioned, it's not just a metaphor. I literally hold information that can expose the deepest corruption in this city. They've silenced many before me, and they won't hesitate to silence us if we don't act." Before he could respond, another violent hit sent shockwaves through the door. They exchanged desperate looks, both knowing time was running out. "What's this secret society?" he breathed out, curiosity peeking through the fear. "It's a network of powerful individuals who pull strings from the shadows. They control everything: corporations, politicians, the system itself." Her voice dropped to a whisper, as if afraid their pursuers could hear. "And they'll stop at nothing to keep their power. Jason felt his stomach drop. Each word twisted like a knife, slicing through his reality. And you're the key? Why you? How? I was adopted, raised in a wealthy family. She hesitated, the weight of her past visible in her eyes. But I found out it's all a facade. My real parents were part of that society. They had secrets that, if revealed, could topple them. The next kick against the door almost knocked them off their feet. Then we need to find your information. We can't just sit here. She held his gaze, and in that heartbeat, something shifted. The fear was still there, but beneath it was an ember of hope igniting. I know a place where I can access the files, a safe haven. If we can get there, I can show you everything. Lead the way, Jake said, his voice steadier than he felt. Just then, the doorframe splintered, and the thugs on the other side let out a collective growl of triumph. The girl pulled him back into the darkness of the alley, the chaos fueling their urgency. Stick close and trust me. They charged through the murky backstreets, the clamor of footsteps behind them blending into a horrifying symphony. Jake's muscles burned, each stride pushing him closer to a reckoning he never wanted and a chase he couldn't escape. But as they rounded a corner, the comforting sounds of the distant sirens were swallowed by the screams of approaching figures. They were everywhere, a nightmare swarming toward them, with the suited man leading the pack. What now? Jake gasped, dread pooling in his gut. Here. She yanked at a chain-link gate, flinging it open. We can lose them in the warehouses. Jake didn't need telling twice. They dove inside, adrenaline coursing through their veins as they crashed into the shadows, heart hammering against his chest. He looked around, trying to cloak himself, when the girl caught his arm. Jake, what? Her eyes loomed with urgency. This could change everything. Are you ready for it? Before he could answer, heavy footsteps echoed nearby, drawing closer. He swallowed hard, grappling with the weight of the unknown that lay ahead. Just then, the door erupted open, and silhouettes poured in. In the dim light, the suited man's grin emerged like a predator. Thought you could hide from me? Jake clenched his fists, a mix of fear and resolve boiling inside him. There was no turning back now. As the darkness closed in, he realized they had awakened something far more dangerous than just a ruthless pursuer. And for the first time, he wondered if escaping would even matter. What other secrets awaited them? Would he truly be ready for the truth, or would he regret the day he chose to step into her world? The sense of impending doom rushed at Jake like a tidal wave, the weight of the girl's gaze piercing through the thick smog of uncertainty. Before he could summon a plan, the suited man stepped further into the warehouse, his imposing figure swallowed by shadows but his smirk unmistakable. Nowhere to run, my dear, he taunted, his voice smooth as silk yet cold as ice. The other figures behind him shifted, circling like vultures waiting for a meal. Get back, Jake, she urged, pushing him behind her as the man advanced, eyes narrowing. You don't want to get involved. Just let her go. Jake shouted, bravado spilling through his fear. He clenched his fists, muscles tense, ready to fight despite the overwhelming odds. The room echoed with the sound of muted laughter, a cruel chorus that filled his bones with dread. Involved? Oh, but he is already involved, isn't he? The suited man glanced at Jake with an almost playful disdain. It seems you've stumbled into something far beyond your understanding. A game of chess, and you're merely a pawn. Enough. The girl snapped, her voice fluttering with an unexpected strength. You think you can intimidate me? You have no idea what's coming. The man's laughter faded, replaced by a glimmer of annoyance. Bold words from a girl who thinks she can oppose the inevitable. But make no mistake, darling, I hold the cards, and I don't play nice. He gestured behind him, and the thugs moved closer, their faces a blend of testosterone-driven excitement and joy. Jake's heart raced, panic creeping into his thoughts. He heard shuffling, dragging footsteps, and the gleam of something metallic caught his eye, a crowbar resting just a few feet away. Jake, the girl whispered urgently, eyes flicking toward the weapon, knowing full well what he planned. He glanced back at her, the gravity of their situation crashing down as adrenaline surged through him. There was no room for doubt now, he had to choose. In one swift motion, he lunged for the crowbar, grasping it tightly. The cold metal felt empowering in his hand.
You don't know anything about me.
He yelled defiantly, raising the crowbar as if to ward off the encroaching darkness. But instead of retreating, the suited man simply chuckled, gesturing for his men to encircle them tighter.
You think that's going to help? You truly believe you can protect her? The girl shot Jake an urgent look, fear and desperation mingling in her expression. We need to get to the exit, away from them.
Jake nodded, mind racing as he turned the handle of the crowbar in his grip, contemplating his next move. They were outnumbered, the odds stacked against them. But he wasn't going to let her be taken without a fight. Suddenly, a piercing siren blared from outside, slicing through the tension like a knife. The suits exchanged uncertain glances. Was it a distraction or a real threat? Now's our chance. Jake shouted, eyes darting toward the back exit, dimly lit but nearby. The girl nodded, determination blazing in her gaze as they charged together. Jake swung the crowbar at anyone who got too close, adrenaline spurring him on. The chaos erupted into a flurry of shouts and movements, but he didn't look back. As they reached the door, he felt a sharp tug on his jacket. The suited man lunged, grasping at the back of him. Jake twisted, shoving the crowbar behind, and it connected, the man recoiling in pain.
Go!
He yelled, adrenaline overpowering any lingering fear as he pushed the girl through the door and into the darkness beyond. They stumbled into the alley, breaths ragged, the dim light of the street beyond promising safety or more danger, but the second they stepped out, the world felt different. The shadows were no longer simply shadows. The streetlights flickered ominously, and an unfamiliar vehicle idled nearby, dark windows obscuring the occupant's face.
What now? Jake panted, eyes wide.
Now, she said, anxiety tightening her voice, we find the truth. But we may not be alone after all. With that chilling realization hanging in the air, Jake felt a shift, something sinister lurking just out of sight. The night had only just begun, and the terrifying revelations were yet to come.
Would they uncover the secrets that bound them, or would they fall deeper into the abyss?
Jake's heart raced as his eyes darted toward the vehicle's dark windows, instinctively pushing the girl behind him. The air crackled with tension, the uneasy feeling that they were being watched wrapping tightly around them. The engine hummed softly, a low growl that resonated in the alley. Jake gripped the crowbar harder, the metal digging into his palm, grounding him as his nerves threatened to spiral out of control. Stay close, he whispered, stealing a quick glance back at the suited man who had tried to capture them. The alley felt like a convoluted labyrinth of shadows, and each flicker of the streetlights made the darkness feel more alive. The girl beside him shifted nervously.
What do we do? Do we run?
Running hasn't worked out so well so far, Jake muttered, a sardonic edge creeping into his voice despite the fear gnawing at his insides.
But maybe we can outsmart them this time. The vehicle's engine revved, its dark figure inching closer, poised like a predator. Jake, she warned, her voice trembling slightly, I don't think we're alone.
A movement caught Jake's eye, a flash of light in the shadows. He turned abruptly, ready to confront whatever threat loomed, only to find nothing more than a stray cat darting across the alley. But the sound that followed froze him in place. Footsteps echoed behind them, heavy and deliberate. Jake shoved the girl further behind him, the hairs on the back of his neck standing up as he squinted into the abyss. Stay quiet, he hissed, scanning the shadows. Each heartbeat seemed to amplify the sound of their breath, a chorus of fear that drowned out all reason.
Is it them? She whispered, wide eyes searching his face for reassurance. I don't know, but we can't wait to find out.
He gripped the crowbar tighter, feeling the reassuring weight remind him he wasn't entirely defenseless. The footsteps grew louder, closer.
Jake's mind raced.
They needed a plan, a chance. Suddenly, inspiration struck.
We'll play it smart. If they've got someone in that car, maybe we can lure them away. Her brow furrowed. How? Drama, he said, a flash of confidence blooming in his gut. We need to make noise more than what we've got. If we distract them, we might find a way to slip out. Before she could respond, he nodded towards a nearby dumpster, then turned to unleash a desperate yell, help! Somebody! Please!
The girl's face paled, but there was no time to waste. They both ran toward the dumpster, banging against it, sending crashing echoes ricocheting off the brick walls.
The footsteps stopped. Silence enveloped the alley like a heavy fog.
Jake's heart pounded in his ears as the silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Seconds felt like hours until he heard the unmistakable click of a car door swinging open.
What the hell is going on?
A gruff voice barked from the shadowy figure.
Now!
Jake yelled, and they darted into the deeper shadows, hoping their ruse would hold while they slipped away unnoticed. They darted to the side, positioning themselves behind a line of delivery trucks. An unseen thrill of possible escape coursed through Jake, but then, the sound of a high-pitched scream shattered the fabric of his fleeting confidence.
Jake! We need to get out of here!
The girl urged, her voice laced with panic, but before he could answer, they were surrounded. The suited man reappeared, flanked by two of his thugs.
Shadows loomed large around them, cutting off any chance of retreat. Thought you could slip away?
He sneered, eyes blazing with malicious triumph.
This is your final move.
Jake's mind churned, searching desperately for an escape route, but dread gripped him as time ground to a halt. Then he spotted something glimmering beneath the streetlight, something crucial to their survival on my count, Jake whispered, gripping the crowbar and readying himself. But a thunderous noise rang out, an unexpected twist rattling through the night.
Sirens, a whole fleet of them, blazing like a beacon of hope.
The world shifted, and for a moment, everything hung in the balance. Time to go. He yelled as he bolted for the nearest exit. Adrenaline surging through his veins.
But in the chaos, had they just traded one danger for another?
As they sprinted into the night, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was chasing them was far from over.
The sirens blared like angry hornets as they raced into the night.
The piercing sound echoed down the alley, pushing the shadows back like an advancing army. Jake burst out of the tight alleyway, the cool night air hitting him like a splash of ice water, ground his feet against the pavement.
He could feel the panic bubbling in his throat.
Where do we go? The girl panted beside him, glancing anxiously over her shoulder. Her wide eyes told him all he needed to know. Fear had tightened its grip on her heart.
Just keep moving,
Jake urged, leading her down a side street, adrenaline pumping through his veins. They needed distance, needed to outrun whoever was behind them. His thoughts raced, grappling for anything that made sense.
What was it that the suited man wanted? Who were the thugs? More importantly, how did they fit into the bigger picture?
Focus on the now, he reminded himself. They needed to stay alive, but they turned another corner just as the thugs spilled out of the alley, eyes scanning frantically. Jake ducked into the darkness of a narrow side street, pulling the girl down beside him against the brick wall, muffling their breaths. He could still hear the sirens, but they seemed to fade, drowned out by the pounding of his heart.
Do you think they saw us?
She whispered, huddling close, her breath warm against his cheek. He shook his head, though inside, uncertainty twisted like a knife. Not if we stay quiet, he replied, chest tightening. They sat in silence, the threat still lurking as the minutes stretched into an agonizing silence. Just when hope began to flicker, the distant roar of an engine broke through the tension like glass shattering. A car skidded to a stop just a few blocks away. Jake, she whispered, her voice trembling.
We shoo.
He clamped a hand over her mouth, looking through the shadows to catch a glimpse of what was unfolding.
Figures slipped from the car, all dressed in dark clothing, faces obscured by shadows.
His gut clenched when he recognized the unmistakable silhouette of the suited man.
Search the area.
They can't be far, he barked, his voice a low snarl. Jake's mind raced. He thought of escaping down another alley, maybe even cutting across a few backyards, but the tightening fingers of dread rooted him in place. He could feel the weight of the crowbar morning against his leg, a bitter reminder of their fight for survival. Suddenly, she spoke softly, almost inaudibly, Jake, they'll find us. No, he replied tersely, his eyes scanning for an escape route, sweat trickling down his temple.
Not if we don't move.
They remained frozen in their hiding place, heartbeats thumping like war drums in the silence of the night. Shadows loomed, prowling with intent. Then, without warning, a beam of light cut through the darkness. A flashlight swept the alley, illuminating the brick walls, flickering dangerously close to their hiding spot. Jake held his breath, fingers tightening around the crowbar. Stay back, he cautioned, praying she wouldn't make a sound. The beam stopped just feet away, revealing a figure chewing gum, dressed in the same dark clothes. "I swear I saw them," he muttered, glancing at his partner, who fidgeted nervously.
"What if they got away?" The second thug replied, unease slipping into his voice. "It's gonna be our heads if Caleb finds out." At the mention of the suited man's name, a chill spread through Jake. Caleb was calling the shots, and this was bigger than he had imagined. "Let us check the last block," the first thug said, moving cautiously back toward the street. A flicker of desperation ignited in Jake, filling him with resolve to act. "We can't just hide forever," he whispered urgently, inching closer to the girl. "If we wait, they'll catch us. We have to find a way out now." As they peered around the corner, the world loomed in slow motion, the thugs distracted, the street alive with the chance for escape. But all of Jake's instincts screamed one miserable truth: they were still mere steps away from danger. He took a deep breath. "This is it," he murmured, eyes locked on the opening. "No looking back." Then, just as he was about to move, a scream pierced the air, a voice so familiar it sent shockwaves through him. "Help! Somebody help me!" Without thinking, Jake pushed off the wall, adrenaline slamming into him like a freight train. "We have to go," he shouted as he darted out, ready to confront whatever horrors lay ahead, but the girl hesitated. "Jake, what if it's trust me?" he yelled, sprinting toward the sound, fueled by desperation and confusion. What awaited them could very well be the end or their only chance at survival. As they pushed forward into the night, unanswered questions tangled in their wake. Who was screaming? Could they really be saved after all? And there was one thing he couldn't shake, the horrible feeling that their night was far from over. Jake's heart raced as they barreled down the street, the girl right on his heels. Who in the world would be screaming for help? He strained to hear through the chaos of pursuit. The sound was shrill, carried by the evening breeze like a desperate plea for salvation. They dodged around barricades and overturned trash cans, weaving through the tangled urban maze. The distant thud of heavy footsteps followed them, echoing their panic. "Just hold on," Jake shouted, his voice cutting through the thick air. "Jake, please," she gasped, limbs flailing as they navigated the uneven pavement. "What if it's a trap?" For a brief moment, doubt clawed at him. But the echo of the voice rekindled a sense of urgency. "I can't leave someone behind," he yelled back, determination igniting a fire within him. The scream clawed at his insides, each urgent cry sparking flashes of another time when he felt powerless. He had to do better this time. They turned a corner and stumbled into an empty parking lot, illuminated only by the eerie glow of overhead lights. The laughter of distant partygoers mocked the dark intensity in his chest. The girl felt more fragile than ever next to him. "We can't just charge in there," she whispered, glancing around nervously. "We don't have a choice," he insisted, desperation screaming louder than reason. Ahead, a flickering neon sign cast an ominous glow. He shifted his gaze, spotting a figure. A silhouette slumped against a car, hands tied behind its back. Whoever it was, they were in serious trouble. That's it. Before he could think twice, Jake sprinted towards the person, heart pounding. "Excuse me. Are you all right?" he shouted as they closed the gap, adrenaline infused in every muscle. "Help! Please!" the captive responded, struggling against their bonds. As they drew closer, Jake's stomach twisted. The person wore a familiar jacket, one he recognized instantly. It was the guard who had worked the front desk at the building, the one who often smiled and offered him coffee during late shifts. "Jonah?" The realization crashed over him like cold water. "What happened?" They're coming for the files. You have to help me." Jonah gasped, eyes wide with panic, darting toward the shadows lining the lot. "Caleb knows you're here. You have to hurry." Fear clutched at Jake, choking him with the enormity of the moment. "We need to get you untied first." He rushed towards Jonah's hands, scrambling for the knots. The girl stayed back, keeping her eyes peeled for any signs of danger. But just as Jake felt the bindings loosen, a low rumble echoed through the parking lot. There they are. Jonah's eyes widened, panic giving way to desperation. "They're here."
Jake glanced back, his heart dropping into his stomach. Shadows flitted through the darkness, the suited man was already at the entry point, creeping forward with lethal intent.
We have to move, he shouted, adrenaline surging as he yanked the remaining ropes loose.
Jonah broke free with a gasp, shaking off the remnants of his constraints, but it wouldn't be long until Caleb's men found them. The girl trembled, gauging the distance behind them with despair. Jake had a fleeting thought, they could fight or flee, but running meant leaving more than just Jonah behind.
Come on.
We stick together, Jake urged, grabbing Jonah's arm tightly. But the moment they turned to dash back the way they came, the flash of a flashlight caught them in its beam. A shout rang out, slicing through the humid air like a knife.
There! Get them!
Panic surged through their veins as they sprinted together, the shadows of the thugs loomed closer, eyes locked on their prey.
As Jake skidded to a halt, breaths ragged and gasping, desperation seeped into his voice. Find a place to hide,
he shouted, sprinting toward an old, abandoned maintenance shed. He could hear the clatter of feet behind him, the wild heartbeats of his companions pushing him onward.
Where to go next?
Failure pressed down on him, but the thought of leaving anyone behind fueled his rush. His mind raced, weighing options.
Would this be the night they were? Caught, just as they reached the door, Jake froze.
He didn't want to hide, not when they could potentially save others. Jake! Cried the girl, pulling him back to reality. But it was too late, he had already made a decision.
We can't hide any longer.
We'll have to face Caleb and his men. With determination coursing through him, they prepared to confront whatever awaited them, leaving behind the safety of the shed and stepping into the light that felt like the mouth of a hungry beast, and as they stepped out, Jake could already hear Caleb's voice, cold and commanding.
There you are, I was wondering when you'd show up. What was it that Caleb wanted? Did he plan to eliminate them for good?
The tension wrapped around them like a vice. Each step forward felt like an ill-fated venture into the lion's den. Little did they know, the real danger still hid behind the smiles they had trusted, leaving Jake questioning if they could truly survive what lay ahead. Jake!
What are we going to do?
The girl's voice trembled, urgency mingled with the sharp edge of fear. Caleb stepped forward, a sinister smile curling on his lips.
You fools thought you could meddle in my affairs and get away with it?
The files you've got are worth more than your lives. His eyes gleamed with triumph, a predator revealing his teeth. Jonah clutched Jake's arm, his eyes darting.
We can't let him get them. If he does, it's over for all of us. No way I'm letting that happen,
Jake said, adrenaline surging through him as he scanned their surroundings. The parking lot felt claustrophobic, shadows swirling thicker as Caleb's men fanned out.
Options, we need options,
the girl whispered urgently, her breath warm against Jake's ear.
What if we run for the alley? We can maybe lose them in the labyrinth of buildings.
Or find ourselves cornered. He shook his head.
We lose our chance to fight back.
Caleb's voice sliced through their whispers, decisions.
Hurry up. I wouldn't want you to feel too comfortable.
From behind Caleb, two of his men began to advance slowly, their attention fixed on Jake's determined stance. Fear twisted through Jake's gut, panic clawing at him.
What could they possibly do against this?
Jonah's face turned pale, eyes darting toward a rusted pipe leading up to the flat rooftop above.
Jake, we could climb. If we can get up there, then what? Jump down on them?
The girl's voice trembled.
No, but we might find an exit.
Jonah pressed, urgency soaked in his tone.
Jake clenched his fists. No one's going to be left behind. If we do this, we need a plan. Caleb can't know what we're doing until it's too late.
Caleb raised an eyebrow, clearly amused.
What's wrong? Planning your next heroic escape?
With a quick glance at the flickering neon lights, Jake made a snap decision.
Up the pipe, now.
He lunged for the base, grabbing the cold metal. His fingers gripped it tightly, determining that there was no way he was leaving his friends behind. Jake! The girl called, fear mingling with a spark of hope. But as he began to climb, the pressure of the situation intensified. Shouting exploded from below, voices punctuated by the thud of footsteps pounding closer.
"Don't look down,"
Jonah urged, scrambling up behind him.
The girl followed, desperation driving her movements.
Jake reached the top and pulled himself over the edge, heart racing.
He grabbed Jonah's arm, helping him up, then extended his hand to the girl as she scrambled behind them. Breathless, they tumbled onto the roof, bodies colliding.
The roar of voices echoed below, blending with the wild pounding of their hearts. They did it barely.
"Shoo!" Jake pressed his finger to his lips, signaling for silence.
Caleb's men were still searching the parking lot, flashlight beams flickering like searching stars.
"We can circle the edge and try to find a way down,"
Jonah suggested quietly. But as they crept to the edge, the unthinkable happened. More shadows appeared, climbing the walls behind them.
"We got nowhere to go,"
the girl whispered, panic swirling back in her chest.
Jake's blood ran cold. "They got back up, we're trapped."
As the thugs advanced toward the rooftop, their faces illuminated in bursts of pale light, Caleb's voice rose stark and clear.
"You're running out of time, children. Hand over those files now, and I might just let you walk away. Otherwise..."
A shiver of dread swept through Jake.
What's his endgame?
Suddenly, the ground beneath shifted. A hidden hatchway across the roof creaked open.
"Over there!" Jonah shouted, pointing. Jake felt a rush of instinct. "We take it, now." But they had only seconds.
With Caleb's cruel laughter drifting upward, Jake sprinted toward the opening, the threat of doom nipping at their heels.
Would this lead to safety or straight into Caleb's trap? As they dove inside, he knew only one thing was certain: the stakes had never been higher. What lay in the darkness of that hatch? Would it bring them freedom, or was it another layer of the trap they were ensnared in?
The hatch creaked open, the air thick with the smell of dust and dread. Jake didn't pause, he shoved the girl inside, then Jonah, following quickly behind him. They landed in a dimly lit storage room cluttered with forgotten relics and excessive shadows.
"Is everyone okay?" Jake panted, flicking the flashlight on his keychain. He glanced back, relief washing over him as both the girl and Jonah nodded, eyes wide with adrenaline.
"Let us find a way out," the girl urged, voice barely rising above the whisper of panic. The sound of footsteps echoed above as Caleb's men searched the rooftop.
They didn't have much time.
"Over here!" Jonah shouted, pointing toward a metal door at the far end of the cramped room.
Jake led the way, adrenaline surging as they approached it, each step fueling his resolve.
They had to find the files, the key to everything, and escape the grips of that looming darkness once and for all. Jake turned the rusty knob and the door groaned open, revealing a narrow corridor that sloped downwards. They hesitated for a split second, aware that every moment counted. "We need to keep moving," he urged, heart racing like a drumbeat. The three of them slipped inside, and Jake led them further into the murky passage, fingers brushing against the rough stone wall for balance. Silence cloaked them, but with every heartbeat, he could feel the tension mounting, like a loaded gun waiting to be fired.
"Do you think we lost them?"
the girl asked, anxiety creeping into her voice.
"Not yet," Jake replied, glancing over his shoulder as the darkness seemed to close in on them. "But we can't stop until we're far away from here."
He felt the weight of their lives resting heavily on his shoulders. Whatever awaited them from Caleb and his thugs, it was now or never. They reached the end of the corridor, which opened into a crypt-like chamber filled with boxes and old furniture that smelt of mildew.
Jake's instincts kicked in, urgency driving him forward. "Check for anything that can tell us where we are."
He ordered. Jonah rifled through a nearby box, fumbling with papers and dusty files. The girl began searching through old cabinets, her breaths quickening as each thud of their pursuers drew closer.
"Hurry!" Jake insisted, panic escalating with every passing moment.
Suddenly, Jonah let out a startled gasp.
He held up a worn folder, jagged ink glimmering in the dim light. "Jake, you need to see this."
Jonah shouted, eyes wide and luminous, almost as if light shot from the pages themselves. Jake moved closer, breathing heavily.
The pages contained names, dates, and transactions, evidence painted in black and white.
It was a record of corrupt dealings that could bring down those on top, including Caleb. This could change everything, he whispered, thunderstruck by the enormity of what they held. A loud bang echoed from above. The thugs were closing in, revving up the chase.
We can't stay here,
the girl exclaimed, the fire of determination roaring in her gaze.
We must get out and deliver this to the authorities. They need to know. Jake nodded, adrenaline fueling him.
Let us go, he urged. They pushed forward, slipping through a side door that led to another corridor, their hearts pounding in unison like a distant war drum.
They made it to what appeared to be an emergency exit. This is it,
Jonah declared, bursting through the door as it swung open to a rear alley behind the building. The city night bustled around them, oblivious to the chaos that had just unfolded. As they emerged, cool air washed over them, invigorating and soothing. We need to find a phone, call the police, Jake panted, scanning the area.
Suddenly, distant headlights caught his attention. Over there, he pointed towards a parked car. We can use that. Without wasting another second, they raced toward the vehicle. The girl scrambled into the back seat, while Jake slid into the driver's seat, determination etched into his face. Let us go, he shouted, gripping the steering wheel tight. Jonah instructed him on where to go, his voice a mix of urgency and hope. They sped down the street, leaving the chaos behind them, or so they thought. A shadow emerged from the jagged corners of the alley, a sleek car barreling down after them. Oh no!
The girl gasped, gripping the seat as Jake slammed on the gas. The city blurred by in a frenzy of lights and terror.
They're gaining on us.
Not for long, Jake growled, the engine roaring to life as he turned sharply onto a side street. The pursuers followed, but with every ounce of will, Jake pushed the gas pedal down harder.
Hang on,
he yelled, veering left into a narrow alleyway, heart pounding as he skillfully maneuvered the vehicle through the tight space. He could feel sweat trickling down his brow. It was now or never.
Where are you taking us?
She asked, a hint of panic threading through her voice.
To the police station,
he shouted back, adrenaline coursing through his veins. As they burst into the main road, Jake noticed flashing lights in the distance. A sense of hope ignited inside him.
They're here.
But just as they thought salvation was within reach, the pursuing car began to close in.
Keep going,
Jonah urged, his voice frantic.
Don't stop.
Jake's heart raced as they raced toward the officers, shouting for help. The cruisers formed a protective barricade. Jake swerved into the parking lot, tires screeching as he skidded to a stop, practically throwing the door open.
Help! They're coming!
He yelled, urgency spilling from every fiber of his being. The moment felt suspended in air, teetering on the edge of disaster.
Officers poured out in a flash, weapons drawn, ready to protect. The pursuit was almost upon them, threatening to consume everything Jake had fought for. Get down! An officer barked, raising a hand as the thugs screeched to a halt, leaping out, ready for confrontation. Time fell into a tense pause as both sides faced off, but Jake knew they weren't out of the woods yet. He clasped the evidence folder tightly in his hands, the last shred of hope for everything that had unfolded. Are you ready? He whispered urgently to the girl and Jonah, determination sharpening his voice. They nodded, a silent agreement formed in the sound of chaos around them, and as the police moved into action, Jake felt the weight of everything they had endured shift in that moment, the fear, the danger, and the bonds they had forged in the flames of crisis. This was at the turning point. The night may have clawed at them, but they stood resolute against the shadows, ready to take back their fate, ready to bring the truth to light. As the sirens echoed against the cityscape, Jake felt hope flicker like the dawn rising anew after the longest night. And as the world rushed forward, he knew they would face whatever came next together, stronger, braver, and unbreakable, and so the hunt for the truth began anew. Be part of the journey. You need to subscribe now and tap that bell icon so you won't miss any of the next thrilling stories coming your way. Smash the like button now to show your support. Let's feed that algorithm together. Flood the comments below with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. I can't wait to hear from all of you. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need this exhilarating conclusion in their lives. Your support makes all the difference on this incredible adventure.